Good morning from Europe. It's Wednesday, May 6th. We'll be with you with the short markets update. We're going to check the latest financial news, geopolitical news, updates, and everything that can move the market, can move the money. Let's start with geopolitical tensions and earnings. Sounds like Donald Trump with AI moving the markets, and they are the biggest market mover. I'm saying the Donald Trump because again, the news came that the Donald Trump said that he paused the freedom of the Project of Freedom to let the negotiations a bigger chance see their results, because it sounds like he says that there is a big progress, very big progress. That's what he says. There is a very big progress for the talks, and that can end with the positive news. That's why Donald Trump trying to just like giving this pause in the project of the freedom to let the negotiations a bigger chance. We know that in next 10 days, Donald Trump will fly to the China to meet the Chinese President Xi in Beijing. So that's why, and just like a few days before that, we know that the Iranian foreign minister also is in China right now. They are just like with his team, that they are there. The negotiation about anything that we don't know, usually something that's something usual in China, that they don't say what they're talking about, but they just say that they're talking. That's sounds like interesting from China, but that's how it's going on, and usually what happens there. Anyhow, situation is interesting there, and this situation giving them just like more sounds like more chance and opportunities to the talks and negotiations. That's why the markets got so slightly positive about that. So at the same time, we know that the earnings market and the earnings reports, they were amazing earnings reports, beat the expectations. AMD and many other economies, especially the AI related companies, they beat the expectations. Samsung, AMD, they were amazing, and they moved the market just like Samsung, with the just Samsung market cap increased to more than $1 billion, and that supported the Kospi also in Asia today, increasing almost 7% in today's trades. Kospi in the Asian market, the same, just like AMD also amazing increase. AMD is the biggest kind of the competitor of Nvidia. Now we can see that AMD also is great, moving amazingly. That supported, that's helped the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq to break the all-time high last night, closing higher, while this positive movement continued in today's futures market as well. That's what we can see in Asia market as well. In the Chinese mainland stocks gaining more than 0.9%. In Nikkei also gains more than 1%. Same in most Asian economies. We can see same prospect and the same positive even in Australia, which is lower yesterday after Reserve Bank of Australia's monetary policy meeting. Today, they gained very good. At the same time, with the news that they came after about the geopolitical tensions, we know that the market risk is down now. VIX is around 19. That supported that supported to, I mean, that's put the pressure, somehow we can say, better to say this way, put the pressure on the bond markets. Now, US 10 years bond yield is down to 4.38%. That was 4.45% yesterday. Same in other economies, Germany, Italy, UK, and Spain. On all of them, the bond yields slower today, showing that the market premium, risk premium is lower and giving more chance to stock market to gain. And now in the futures market, we can see Dow Jones is gaining by 0.2%, S&P 500 is up by 0.3%, and Nasdaq is up by 0.7%. As mentioned, they closed higher last night. Nasdaq gained more than 1%. S&P 500 closed last night by 0.8%, and the Dow Jones by 0.7%. Still, these positive movements goes forward, while this is while the US dollar index with the lower risk in the market is down. The forex market seeing the US dollar around 98.09. That's why we can say that in the commodity market. The gold also is increasing with $4,676, while the WTI is trading around $100 and Brent oil around $108, telling that the market is counting on the lower prices for them. On the other hand, in the cryptocurrency market, while the stock markets are positive and we were expecting to see the cryptocurrencies also positive, but Bitcoin increased, right? It's increased right now, trading about $81,000. But compared with the yesterday, we didn't have a very big movement. The main reason is because of the negative earnings report that we had from Strategy. And Strategy, they missed expectations, they missed the revenues and EPS both, and they say that they are planning to sell some of their Bitcoins to recover their loss that they had. That's why we can say that was the main reason to see that the cryptocurrency market had slightly limited. I mean, the movement in the cryptocurrency market was slightly muted to see not a big. That's why we didn't see such a big movements there. So that's what happened. That's what happened in the markets with the changes. Now I have to say about the. Let's review the most important economic data that we had from yesterday so far till now. After yesterday update, we had sorry, amazing numbers and data from United States. But before going forward to the United States, I have to say that in the Eurozone, we had not such a good, I mean, data, just like the Eurozone still moving way slower compared with the other economies. In Brazil, we had inflation index slightly increasing by 0.4% mid-month inflation. And then in US season, we had Canadian import and export numbers. Import eased while export increased, supported the Canadian trade data, while S&P Global showed that the Canadian service sector slightly moving better from 47.2 increased PMI to 49.2. Going to the United States, US had very mixed day. Somehow GLTs, they were amazing with more than 6,866,000 daily trade, I mean, just like our job opportunities, better than expected. At the same time, the February number also revised higher from 6.8 million to 6.9 million. This is while the new home sales in February increased by 8.9%, but the new home sales in March increased just like much better than February. So they continued this positive movement. But on the other hand, the building permits, while in February increased by 11%, in March fell by more than 11%. But on the other hand, we had amazing retail sales numbers. Redbook reported of 7.8% sales last week annually. This is much better than just like the usual number that we have for the Red Book, and even much better than 7.7% that we had week before that. Generally, the US market and the data shows not a bad situation. ISM also published its surveys. ISM non-manufacturing prices stayed unchanged at 70.7, while non-manufacturing PMI slightly eased from 54 to 53.6, but still, that's 53.6 is a good number, especially compared with other economies. Non-manufacturing employment from 45.2 increased to 48. Zero, slightly less than expectations, but still good, still good. ISM non-manufacturing business activities also from 53.9 increased to 54.9, and non-manufacturing new orders from 60.6 slower to 53.5. Generally, economic optimist is better, and the market is fine. GDP, the outlet Fed GDP now for the second quarter from 3.5% increased to 3.7%. But surprise was in the energy market there. The API reported more than 8.1 million barrels drop in the US oil inventories. for the private sector, which was much more than 2 million drop, 2 million barrels drop that market expecting. But still, I can see that's a very normal because now the United States trying to export more oil and then less reserves because to just somehow to cover this shortage that we have in the energy market. In other places, labor market in New Zealand, slightly better than expected, printed better than expected. And for the first quarter, unemployment rate eased to 5.3% today, knocked down from previous 5.4% in fourth quarter 2025. Inflation in South Korea increased more than March in April. Annually, it increased by 2.6% and monthly by 0.5%, both more than 2.2 and 0.3% that we had in March. Generally, higher inflation shows the reaction of the market reflect reaction to the energy. It's just like the Middle East conflict that we have and energy higher prices that we have, continuing the war between Iran and United States and Strait of Hormuz blockade that we have there. In India, we had manufacturing, service. We had manufacturing and service sector together, just a composite number. PMI slightly up to 58.2. The main reason because of the good increase that we had in the service sector, 15.8. In Spain, service sector slightly eased to 50. From 53.3 to 47.9 for April, but we are expecting to see in the next month the service sector to move better in Spain and Portugal, especially because of better tourist sector expectations that we have. Later today, we're gonna have the PMI numbers from the most developed and developing economies, especially the United Kingdom, UK, Eurozone, and Eurozone and European economies. As mentioned earlier this week, on Monday, we had a manufacturing PMI numbers better than expected, and now for the service sector, we are slightly negative this time. So let's see what's going to happen and how they can manage. But generally, we're expecting slightly weaker service sector number that can slow down the the composite numbers as well. Another number that we have to watch today is the producer price index number in the Eurozone, PPI. It's expected to increase by 1.8% in March, much higher than 3.3% that we had in February, much higher than, just sorry, 3% drop that we had in February. That shows that with the higher energy that we have right now, the production price is higher, but will this producer can deliver these higher prices to the consumer or not? That's the big question. If that can be repeated in the next month, we can say that okay, the producer will continue to deliver these higher prices to the consumer, but it's depend on the market. Let's see what's gonna happen. But if in the short term, maybe we cannot see that big difference in in consumer final prices for now. Anyhow, in United States, we're gonna have the 8-year 30 years mortgage rates today. We're expected to see again around 6.4%. That means that applications still can again slow down. Last week, the number of applications fell by 1.6%. It's expected to slow down this week as well. And we have to watch the S&P Global for the service and composite numbers in Mexico and Brazil as well. While in the United States, the energy market report by the EIA, U.S. Energy Administration report, the weekly report as well, should be watched closely. Market expecting more than 3.4 billion barrels drop in inventories, in U.S. oil inventories. That's what we're expecting to see with these numbers that we had and we're expecting to have. We are still positive about, I mean, I'm saying still because yesterday I was not so much positive about the stock market. I was expecting some technical correction, but again, we had a surprise in the market. No one can, you know, somehow predict Donald Trump's moves. Anyhow, he could again move the markets higher, especially with the comments that he had about the war and geopolitical tensions. Generally, the what we can see in the market now, there is no reasons for now to see the markets down. At least I am slightly positive about the lower tensions, at least before Donald Trump and Xi Jinping's, Mr. Xi's meeting next 10 days in China. most probably he will try to slow down the tensions before his travel there, his flight there, and maybe the positive progress that we had in the negotiations also can end somewhere. Last night, Donald Trump mentioned that he really should accept they have to raise the white flag and they have to accept all conditions that we have. But that those comments maybe probably put the pressure on Iranian. So let's see what's gonna happen. The situation is so critical right now. And still, while the geopolitical tensions lower compared with the last days, but still at 19 weeks, showing the higher risk and volatility in the market. That's what's happening in the market and what's going on. So as mentioned, you're still positive about the cryptocurrency market, stock market with these numbers and the data, slightly negative about the oil price, positive about the gold price, negative about the US dollar index, positive for the euro and pound and other currencies against US dollar. That's what happened and what we're expecting to see later today. Hope it was useful for you. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye bye.